Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Katelyn, and today we have another huge project video. I know we just did the skateboard deck, but I'm a glutton for punishment apparently, and I just want to keep doing these big projects. They are so much fun, and I am so grateful to have amazing sponsors that believe in my vision to make and create these giant things. So today's sponsor is Arteza. Arteza is a great online art supply shop that does everything from pencils, markers, paints, they even have canvases, whatever you need to create and make art. And they are having a big sale here in October, and I'm excited to share with you guys the cool coupon codes that you can use to get some really inexpensive art supplies. If you guys would like to pick up some new art supplies from Arteza, if you use the code MonsterMash1, you will get a portion off of your sale, along with stick around till the end of the video to see what else Arteza is offering us for this little sponsorship. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's Monster Mash. For this video, I really wanted to try a new material that I haven't done on the channel. I've used similar tools before, but not exactly. But basically today, I wanted to do a sculpture. At first, I wanted to do a foam sculpture, which I still want to do in the near future, but I decided for Halloween, I kind of want to do a clay sculpture because I really want to make a Halloween style creature thing out of clay. But I wanted you guys to participate, but also keep this kind of a secret. So what I did is I posted it in my stories on Instagram for you guys to send me 2 animals and a characteristic idea to mash together into this new monster. So I'm gonna go ahead and give myself the first characteristic though, because I really want to make a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern based creature. So I'm gonna combine 2 random animals from your guys' suggestions and 1 other characteristic to make this new creature. I'm really excited because we got a bunch of new art supplies from Arteza that I get to use on this sculpture, but first off, let's go ahead and figure out what we're gonna be sculpting. Here I have all of your guys' Instagram replies, so let's go through and see what you guys sent me for the 2 random animals and a characteristic. So for the first animal, let's go ahead and go with this one. All right, so Trick said a bat. All right, next one. And we're gonna just go with the next prompt, and let's go with this one. And Era said a toad. So we got a bat and a toad, and now let's go on to the characteristic. Let's see, how about this one? Hey, my friend Dustin sent me vines. All right, so we have a toad, a bat, vines, and a pumpkin to combine together for the Monster Mash today. So Arteza sent me a few sketchbooks to try out. There's quite a few pages of each of these, 132 pages, a pretty decent sized sketchbook, and it's pretty compact. It's about the same size as my moleskin, so let's open this and try it out. All right, there we have it. 2 pretty nice sketchbooks. The front is a very interesting and nice texture, and then it has this little drawstring cord to keep it closed. Paper feels pretty nice too. Ooh, man, it's pretty thick paper too. I bet you could use it for a couple of different things. I guess for dry medium it says more so, but it's a pretty nice thick paper. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple of different sketches and see what we want to do for this Monster Mash. Okay, so I finished some initial rough sketching on here, and I really like this first one over here. I think this guy is super cute, and I love using like the warts that are on a toad, similar to the bumps that would be on certain types of pumpkins. And then I think this just is a really fun design. I really like these big ears, and this lends well to the pumpkin look in general. And it's really fun to just put vines all over his body, maybe stemming from up here where the stem starts, and maybe put some leaves. I think that'll be really cute. I do really like this guy as well. He's kind of this bigger, creepier, bat-like dragon kind of thing. And I like what I'm doing here with the body and segmenting it similar to the ridges of a pumpkin. So I think I'm gonna run with this idea, but I'm gonna bring a couple of characteristics from this one into the final sculpture. So let's go ahead and head downstairs and figure out how we can sculpt this guy out. Alright guys, so today we're going to be working with monster clay, which is something I haven't worked with before. I've done a couple of other different types of clay, but this is the first time I've used this specific clay. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning process, but I ordered quite a bit, so we should have enough to do this sculpture. Next up, Arteza sent me some of their pottery clay and sculpting tools, so we'll be using this to sculpt and carve the clay. I also got a couple of their hobby knives, just in case I needed to take more bigger chunks out with more of an X-Acto knife. All right, I better cover up and get ready to work with some dirty clay. With starting off the sculpture, you have to start with building a very sturdy base, and with that you need something basically underneath the clay to keep it upright and firm. If you start with just straight clay, you're gonna have the problem, well, a couple problems actually. First of all, it might kind of melt in on itself. Since it is a oil-based clay, you have to start it hot and it could potentially just kind of seep down and not hold its form. Second, you're probably gonna end up wasting a lot of clay on the inside of the piece. You can save a lot of your material by first starting with a armature wire base, which then you later cover and kind of build up its form with foil. Foil is way cheaper than the clay, and you can just kind of layer it and slowly add and subtract to it, and it's a really good way to start the base for the clay to go on top of. So first of all, I start with crinkling in a nice thin layer at the very inside. I kind of leave some, I guess, open pockets of foil. I don't really make sure that it's all crinkled perfectly or anything. This is just to rough in the shapes and where everything is gonna go. This is a good opportunity to build up that mass and form that you're gonna have under the clay, but make sure to not go too much. I had the problem with a couple of my areas where I added too much form with the foil, and I had the problem with when I was carving back the clay that it would keep hitting foil, which makes it a little bit difficult when you don't want foil peeking through the clay, but you want to carve some back. My solution ended up being making the whole thing overall thicker or adding more substance to that area, so then I could carve it back and add a lot more room and space to the creature's carving capacity, I guess you could say. This also helps you to start to figure out kind of the anatomy and the structure and where everything is gonna rest before you start mopping on the clay. So as you can see, I just started the clay. I put the monster clay in my oven at the lowest setting, which is 170 degrees Fahrenheit, to kind of get it to more of a goopy liquid type texture, and it lays on super easy this way. If you try to pull it straight out of the box as is, you're just gonna have this hard mess of clay that just is not moldable. You'd have to really get in there with a chisel to get it out of the box. So you gotta heat it up first to get it to be moldable, because this is the opposite kind of idea of other clay. So the clay that you usually use for pottery is, it's moist and wet as is, and then you bake it to harden it. But this one hardens with just being in the air, and then you add heat to make it more pliable and moldable. So something to keep in mind if you ever want to try working in monster clay is don't bake it when you're done, or else you're going to lose your entire sculpture. Luckily, I did not do that. But just as a heads up, in case it ever crosses your mind. I think I used close to a whole tub just building up this first portion of the sculpture, which would have been way more if I didn't even have foil. It also helps to have that foil and armature wire so then you have something to build off of. Because if you're building from nothing, it's a little bit harder to kind of visualize it. But if you have some type of base structure to build around and start adding like more of the anatomical elements to, it helps a lot. I noticed at this part of the sculpture that my sculpture is starting to kind of sag in the front, so I added those little wood rings to hold it up. And then I realized also on the bottom I didn't really add any clay, so areas that needed to be covered were not. So I flipped this guy over and just covered him really quickly with some clay. It's really nice for this part of the process to just kind of slowly build things up and figure out kind of the space that you want this creature to fill, or like where the different elements of it sit. I will be honest, this was kind of a challenge for me when I started because I haven't worked in 3D in so long. It's kind of like recalibrating your brain. It's like if you haven't ridden a bike in a really long time, it might take a while to figure out how to balance on it again, or how to turn the pedals at the same time, which was something I guess I really struggled with because at first I was just trying to figure out like what shape this creature would be, and I was really struggling with seeing it in my mind. I got a general idea of like, okay, this is where the arms are, this is where this is, but I couldn't visualize the final one as well as I thought I could. I do think that I'm kind of a three-dimensional thinker when it comes to like sculpting and drawing. I tend to think in 3D, as at least my mother keeps telling me that over and over, that I seem to be a person that thinks in 3D. But for this part of the process, it was a little hard for me to figure out what this thing would look like in 3D. Slowly adding on the details like these toes and getting the face more built up, adding the ears, helped me kind of figure out where I was going with this, and it helped me see the piece slowly come together. This piece in total took me 3 solid days of work. I think I put at least 7 to 8 hours every one of those days into this piece. I just worked on it like crazy. My thumbs hurt so bad from molding all the clay. It was great. But basically probably a total of 16 hours went into this piece. And the first couple hours were pretty hard. Like I said, it was really difficult for me to visualize what this guy would look like in the end, because I had the vision and I had the sketch next to me the whole time, which helped. But I kept noticing like, oh, maybe this doesn't have enough clay. Maybe this area needs to be built up more. Like here, I add more to like the hump of his back, which did help a lot. But it's kind of those things that I wish I realized during the foil part of the structure, because then I could have added more to the back before adding so much more clay. And it was just, that's basically all I did. I kept building and building and building and adding and adding and adding, and anywhere that I thought was lacking in clay or structure or needed some more substance to a limb, I made sure to add it with clay. So I ended up using probably about 1.5 cartons of monster clay, which was quite a bit, but you know, it still worked and it still made this guy look amazing overall. At this point, it was time to bust out the Arteza tools, which I think the packaging came a little open when I opened the box. I think just part of the plastic got pierced by one of the tools and some of them spilled out, but there were so many to pick from. And I also incorporated a heat gun because, like I said, monster clay is moldable when it's hot and it hardens when it starts to cool down. So I wanted to be able to easily and quickly heat up the surface to either smooth it or to cut parts out. So getting a heat gun was a great investment. So if you want to like work with monster clay more often, or if you really want to try it out as a medium, like try getting a heat gun. I think I got mine on Amazon for like 20-30 bucks. It wasn't really that expensive at all. And it was time to start using the Arteza tools at this point, which I think I cycled between probably about 7 or 8 of the tools in total. I know there's 42 in there, but I just kind of found random ones and random uses for them. Like some for providing texture to help me connect different areas, and some like this one just carving out some spaces and getting some lines down so I could figure out where I was going with my carving. And there were some really good, like, more scooping tools that I could use to scoop out the clay for, especially here with the mouth. I was trying to figure out, I'm like, all right, how am I gonna get all this clay out without, like, killing my hands? Because at this point, my hands and fingers were cramping. I'm like, I should really just utilize these tools to their fullest. So I got this one tool that helped me slowly scoop out more, and I kept hitting with the heat gun and smoothing it and trying to visualize it in my mind. And that's kind of when I realized that this mouth wasn't open wide enough, because at first I was trying to carve into it to get the teeth, but I was like, oh, that's not gonna work. So I used this more of a wood wedge that I used for scraping clay out of the bin. I used it to open the mouth more. And I added a little more to the chin because I felt he didn't have enough chin going on for this kind of more fat toad. And then from there, I was like, all right, let's add some teeth, because I thought about carving and cutting into this piece to add the teeth, but I found it would probably be way more effective if I slowly added on teeth. And it was same for other portions of this. I had to keep thinking within adding. So like here, I'm adding in eyeballs because I did subtract out the eye cavity, which helped a lot. And then I added in the round eyeballs along with some, I guess, eyebrows, or like just the eyelids around the eyes, and that helps add a lot of texture, because this was another one that I was trying to get my head around. Well, how am I going to get it to look natural and not just like I weirdly shaped it out of nowhere? It was a little bit hard to think in 3D for these ones, and like I said, I haven't worked with clay in so long that I was just trying to remember how to layer and texturize and get everything to look like a big cohesive creature, and not just here I slapped on random shapes of clay on this this creation to make this. I also noticed I wanted to add a little bit more to his face after I added the eyebrows, and it just perfectly made this guy look like a toad. I really liked adding that one bit of detail, and I think this was when I was finally starting to figure out, like, okay, I got this. I'm figuring out where this is all going. I got the teeth started, the eyes look great, I got a cool looking head, and I was finally starting to get more confident with this sculpture. I want to let you guys know that I do struggle with confidence in my art here and there. I do like when I get to the final process and like the final piece, I tend to get really confident about my work, and I do like, you know, showing it, I guess. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but during the process of creating art, I waver in terms of confidence. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, like maybe this isn't turning out as great. But you know, I push through, and I encourage you guys, if you guys struggle with confidence in your work or confidence to complete a project, just try to push through. I mean, even if it doesn't turn out how you like it to, it's good practice, and it will help lead to better successes in the next project. Or it might lead you to someplace surprising, like this creature. At first I was like, man, I suck at sculpting. It's like, I haven't done this in so long, I am not doing good. And this creature proved me wrong. I felt really great about him in the end, but I just had to push through and make sure that I finished him so that I could see the final results. And then for the ears, another little bit of insight. I did put a thing of wire in the middle, which ended up kind of not being great. On one of the ears, I actually had to pull it out because it kept peeking through the top of the ear. I think this first ear was fine, that I could like push it and mold it and move it so it looked more like a bat ear. But then the second ear, I think, was where the wire kind of got in the way. I'm not an expert on how to make these thinner portions of clay. Like, I don't know if you would put a thing of foil and then just put really thin clay. That kind of would make sense and probably would work really well. But I guess that's my one suggestion for that. Just maybe apply a thin thing of foil and then cover that in clay. Maybe that would work better than what I did. And now I wanted to start smoothing out the sculpture overall, so I was hitting it with a heat gun and smoothing everything out because I was gonna start adding details over top, and I wanted it to kind of have the smooth pumpkin skin feel underneath those details. So this was a lot of going around with my thumb. I did at some points use some of the smoothing tools that were provided in the Arteza kit. They did help get a certain amount of smoothing, and like I said, I'm not a pro at sculpting, so I wasn't 100% for sure which tool would be best. So I did a combination of hand and tool for smoothing, and then hitting it a lot with the heat gun. Telling you, best investment I've ever made. That heat gun saved my life and made all of this so much easier. So earlier I was struggling with the nose again, like trying to carve into it, and I was like, man, I should just look at reference. So I pulled up a picture of a bat, and I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. So I highly recommend reference for you guys. If you struggle with something, just look up a picture of it. It makes it so much easier. So I figured out the nose, and I absolutely loved it. It's like this cute little like flared nostril nose. It's just adorable. I really love how the nose looked and turned out, and just getting to work with that and add the details. I was really seeing this guy come together. Between smoothing the skin, adding the nose, adding those teeth and eyes, I finally was like, yes, oh my god, my pumpkin creation is coming together amazingly. And then on the face, I wanted to make sure it did look like a jack-o'-lantern, so I thought I'd add the pumpkin ridges and kind of make it look like it had those different lines down the sides like pumpkins do. And I realized there's another tool I could have used for it, like there's a ball tool that would have worked really well, but I didn't think about that. I was like, I'll just use this tool. And then I also texturized the stem with one of the brush tools and just kept working into that to make it really look like wood. Oh, actually, it looks like I do start using the ball tool. It's a smaller one. I should have used the slightly bigger ball tool. That might have worked a little bit better, but I still like how these look in the end. Like, it gave the idea of a pumpkin. When I did show it to my friends, they were like, oh, that's like a pumpkin creature. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. I just want to make sure it looked like a pumpkin. And then the ball tool also lended a lot of help with defining like my eyebrows and certain areas that I really wanted to stand out. The ears I kind of struggled with in terms of how to texturize and like how I wanted them to look. So I carved out some of the inside of the ears to help with the different dimensions of the ear. And yeah, just worked with it on and off and added some more texture to it and kind of tried my best to make them look like cute little bat ears. And now it's time for some more detailing. I wanted this to look very much like a very fat frog. I wanted like lots of little fat rolls, and then I also wanted little clawed feet because I feel the clawed feet match the idea of a bat, but then also making them still look like toad feet, and oh, I just loved it. I love his little claws. They're so cute. And like I said, as you can see, I really wanted to make this guy look like a fat toad, so I added lots of different like folds and I guess, what would you call those? I guess folds is the best word for it, or like bands of fat. I don't know. I don't know a good term for that, but I added it around the shoulder and around the wrists down by the bottom of the feet. And I think that looks really good, especially the shoulder kind of reminds me of like a wood tree, like this is part of a branch that's coming out of the side. And then I made sure to texturize the arm as well because we were going to be adding little warts and other things, so the texture would help the hot clay stick to the other bit of hot clay. And then I made sure to add a little extra texture to really get those to stick because I wanted to make sure those things would not fall off, because little ball-shaped things are just bound to come off the sculpture, break off, just get lost in space. So I really want to make sure they were on there good. Now from here, it was time to add some more of the details. So we started with the warts, and then I also had to incorporate the vines. So I thought if it was similar to a pumpkin, the vines would be attached up towards the stem. At least that's how I think pumpkin anatomy works. So I started all the vines up by the stem and worked them down and around the body, around the face, and just slowly started building more and more details on top of the more smoothed body. I also realized later on, which you guys will see when I jump back into it, I probably should have put the wings on first before I started detailing. I do end up putting details in areas that wings were supposed to connect that I really shouldn't have put anything on, but I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm like, all right, let's just murder this guy with like lots of little cute warts and like little bumps similar to the toad or the pumpkin, and then we'll put vines and he'll be adorable. And then partway through I was like, oh no, I haven't done the wings at all yet, and all this stuff is in the way and it's gonna be really hard to connect it with all these things. So a lot of the warts had to come off, along with some of the vines had to either be blended back into the clay or be moved. I also added little leaves here and there on the vines, just little simple things. I don't know if, I assume pumpkin vines do have leaves. I did not look up any reference for how pumpkin vines are, but I just kind of assumed that they have some type of leaf, and I added them here and there around all the different vines, and it was like so relaxing to just put these little warts everywhere. It was just like, I don't know how to describe them. They were just cute, and it was fun to slowly see the space build up as I added more and more little details, all these little warts and vines going everywhere. And I just loved it. It was so fun, and they turned out really cute. And it was also fun trying to figure out how to vary in size to make it look kind of natural, but also not like, here's a big one and a bunch of small ones, and then here's another big one and a bunch of small ones. Like, I needed to make sure that there wasn't like a solid pattern to it, that it fluctuated in size and density in terms of how many little warts were together or separated, just to give it a much more natural feel and look. It was right around here that I started doing the detailing on the feet, and then noticed that, oh man, I'm putting these little warts on these legs. We have the vines, and I haven't even attached the wings. It honestly was one of the scariest things to think of how to do this. So I took the clay, I heated it up as best I could, I flattened it, I took it over to my rolling pin to flatten it even more, and by doing that it ends up cooling, so then you have to keep reheating it and trying to flatten it more and more. And my wires kept moving too, so I ground them with some more clay. I heated up one side of the clay so it would adhere a little bit better, and then I attached it to the body. I cut off the bottom of the wing to roll and reattach to itself, and just slowly kept applying heat gun and tools and like trying to get into all the smaller spaces to round out and smooth the wings onto the body. And then later on I do add some clay underneath the wings to make sure that the wire is in there and won't be moving and it's fully attached to the wing. And now it's time to add some detailing to the wing. I used a couple of different tools from the clay set along with some X-Acto knives to cut out larger chunks of the wing and just give a cool, interesting texture to it. I always love when wings look more aged and maybe have some tears or cuts at the end of them to look like this guy has been around the block a few times. I really love adding that to any type of wing, and it just adds so much more personality to the creatures. The second wing, I had a little bit of trouble getting it to be as flat as the first one. I don't know if maybe I had too much clay, but when I took it to the rolling pin and tried to get it to be more flat, it cooled so much faster. I don't know, maybe it was like the first wing was warmer when it started and this one cooled off in between, but it was a much thicker wing, so it was a little bit harder to work with and manipulate to make it look how I wanted to. And I ended up having to hit it with the heat gun while it was on the wires to try to thin it out a little bit more. It made it a lot less smooth, so I had to go back through, smooth it, cut it, do everything I could to make this look similar to the other wing. It did add a little bit of texture to the edging with the having to cut the ends of it, which was nice. It added a cool look. And then after I finally got it smooth and attached, it was time to add the details yet again. And now I could dive back into adding more vines and warts now that those stupid wings were attached. I couldn't believe that I forgot those and worked on the detailing that had to be moved anyway. So now let's jump in and get those warts done, the rest of the vines done, and add all of the final little details to this guy. He was so much fun, a lot of work, and I hope you guys like him. I really like doing sculpture. I had a blast. And it's something I haven't done in a long time, so it was nice to be able to dive back in and, get my hands dirty with clay. And wow, what's so nice about this clay too is it just comes off, you can roll your hands around in the monster clay, and it just slowly peels off at it as it cools. I remember working with the more ceramics clay and just basically being this is how my hands are going to be for the rest of the day, because you kept finding dry clay on your hands. You'd have to scrub and pick it out of your nails. This one is so much nicer. It was a lot easier to get off my hands and out of my nails, and it was great. I highly recommend this for anyone who wants to try sculpture. It's a great tool to have, and it's just it's a great medium. It's just so much fun, and I had a blast just diving in and trying this new type of clay. All right, guys, and we are finally done with this big boy, and I am so happy with how it turned out. It looks amazing, and I had so much fun doing it. I used to work in 3D a lot more, especially in college. I would do a lot more sculptures and other things, and I haven't touched it probably since then, so at least 6 years or so, I haven't really sculpted, and it was amazing jumping back into it. At first, it was kind of a learning curve to re-figure out how to sculpt again, but once I got it, it just felt so much more natural and how it used to be, getting on a bike after not riding it for a long time. It was, I just really love this, and it turned out great. So I'd like to thank Arteza for sponsoring this video and sending me some really amazing tools to use for this clay sculpture. I thought it was gonna be a little bit harder because those tools are more meant for wet clay instead of this oil-based clay, so I thought it wouldn't be able to carve as well, but there's a whole slew of different tools in this set, and I actually would really recommend it. Arteza isn't paying me to say anything. I was allowed to give an honest review, and I actually really like the tools. I didn't use all 42 of them, but I did use quite a bit for the different texturing and helping me cut out and carve different areas, so I would recommend it, especially if you're just now getting into sculpting. It's a really affordable price and you get quite a few different tools. And with that, the sponsorship isn't quite over yet. Arteza wanted me to do a really cool announcement for you guys, and we're gonna host an art contest. So before we get to the last part of the video, I just wanted to tell you guys that Arteza is giving me another really great coupon code for you guys to combine with their upcoming sale. So if you go to Arteza and use the code MonsterMash, you'll get a portion off of your sale and you'll also help support the channel. So for the month of October, we're gonna be hosting a giveaway with Arteza supplies. So basically what I'm tasking you guys to do to enter is to create your own pumpkin monster. That's right, I want you to make a monster mash with pumpkin involved somehow. It could either be interacting with a pumpkin, it could be merged with a pumpkin. I wanna give you guys the prompt of making a pumpkin monster. So for this competition, there are a couple different rules to follow. So first of all, go check out Arteza's YouTube channel. I'll have a link down in the description below, and from there, go ahead and like and leave a comment on their latest video. Then after that, post your monster creation on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag ArtezaMonster. Also, here are the different countries that Arteza can ship the goodie supplies to. So if you'd like to participate in the contest, make sure that you are living in one of these countries here on the graphic. I would love to hear more about your monsters too, so feel free to leave anything in the description about your creation and kind of your inspiration behind it. And also feel free to tag me and Arteza in that as well, so then we get to check it out and see what creation you made. So this is running for all of October, and you have until October 31st where we will be picking the winners and then sending out the prizes. Arteza is going to be sending a bundle of different art supplies to our winner, and this is just going to be solely based off of like how creative your monster is. You don't need to be super experienced in art. I'm not gonna be looking for like the best rendered or the best painted. I just am really looking for something awesome and creative and just a cool monster that involves pumpkin. I'm really excited to see your guys' creations, and thanks again Arteza for supporting the channel. Like, I really appreciate it, and it's amazing to have such a cool sponsor like you guys. So just to go over everything again, make sure to check out Arteza's YouTube channel and then have a like and a comment on their newest video, and then post your monster to Instagram or Twitter using the hashtag ArtezaMonster. I cannot wait to see your guys' entries, and thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. I had so much fun, and if you guys want to see me do more 3D sculptures, like leave a like down below or comment like what other sculpture things you want me to do. I have a bunch more monster clay left, and I'm planning on doing some foam sculptures in the future. I just gotta figure out when to do them and the time from, because they're bigger pieces. But I'm just really excited. Like, I've been having so much fun making videos for you guys, and I'd love to hear what you think I should sculpt next. So thanks again guys so much for stopping by and checking out this video. And if you aren't already, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I have new videos every week, ranging from my 100 Dragon Challenge to monster mashes to who knows what other cool art things we're gonna make in the future. So thanks again guys so much for stopping by, and I will see you all next time. Bye everybody. So Elsa, do you approve of this sculpture? Do you like it? Do you like it? I made it just for you. What is it? Oh my goodness, what is that? What is it? Oh, my big boy Coda, do you like it? You're a really heavy dog. Do you like it? Smell it. Do you like it, huh? You should tell people go check out Arteza. Go check out Arteza! I'll see you guys next time. Bye everybody.